everybody, this is Under the Arch Sports. I'm Eric Hobbs, and today we're going to talk about the BattleHawks and their race for the playoffs. Before we get into that, I need you guys to do me a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel and find us on Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. Right, so we've got ourselves a 3-team race for 2 spots in the XFL semifinals coming out of the North Division. Along with the BattleHawks, you've got the 6-1 DC Defenders, and then you've got the Seattle Sea Dragons also with the same 5-2 record. DC was undefeated until they inexplicably lost to Orlando. Don't ask me how that happened. Weird, but it happened. So there's a chance that the BattleHawks could win the North Division and host a playoff game, but given the tiebreaker situation, the BattleHawks having lost to DC twice, BattleHawks have to win out, and DC has to lose 2 of the last 3. Unlikely, I think, but, so was them losing to Orlando, so it could happen. Of the 3 teams that are in the race for the 2 spots, the BattleHawks, in my mind, have clearly the easiest road. First off, all 3 games are at home. And, we know the BattleHawks, because of you guys, best home field advantage in the XFL. And, look at this. Look at the teams. This coming week, Vegas. They're not that good. And then week 10 is Orlando. Week 9, next week, gigantic game against the Seattle Sea Dragons. That one could determine who is in that second spot in the XFL North, especially if Seattle were to pull off the upset this week and beat DC. The DC Defenders are traveling to Seattle for an enormous matchup. You're looking at Seattle's schedule. They have Seattle. They have DC, I should say. Then they're coming to St. Louis for the game I mentioned, and they close it out against Vegas. And then you look at DC, and we've talked about it. They're at Seattle, and then they host Arlington, and then they finish the season at San Antonio. Again, not the hardest schedule for DC, but San Antonio can be a loud environment. They got, if memory serves, they've got the biggest non-St. Louis crowd against the BattleHawks, and I was there. I was at the Alamo Dome for that game, and it can be a tough place to play. It was loud for most of that game until the last minute 18 or whatever it was. So the BattleHawks, I think, are in a pretty good spot, honestly, to finish no worse than 7-3. And frankly, I think they're in a pretty good position to finish 8-2. You look at the Seattle game, they were right there at Seattle, and that was a miserable game. That was a Thursday night game with 6,000 people there because it was Seattle, 6 weeks ago in the freezing weather. No one wanted to be playing that game, much less the visiting BattleHawks, but they pulled out the win on the last-second field goal. You know what? I think you flip to playing in the Dome with an offense that has progressed a lot, particularly on the offensive line. And, I like the BattleHawks' chances of finishing 8-2. And that's where you root for Seattle to beat DC and then for St. Louis to beat Seattle. Because then you're in a tie with DC, and then it only takes a slip-up at home against Arlington or losing down in San Antonio for DC, and the BattleHawks would be hosting. And, man, oh man, can you imagine the Battle Dome hosting a playoff game? They might actually sell out the entire stadium for that. I know there's been a push to get as many in as possible, to beat that 38,310 mark they set in the home opener. A playoff game, they're gonna blow that out of the water. I feel very confident of that if they can get it. Again, a lot has to happen with 2 DC losses to end the season, along with the BattleHawks winning out. But it's fun to think about it. Now, if the BattleHawks are going to get there, it's going to be because of A.J. McCarron. And there's a lot of times where he seems like he's about the same as other XFL quarterbacks. But to me, he really stands out in the high leverage situations. Going all the way back to week 1 at San Antonio, he was all over the place, running for his life. And then the last 2 minutes to get the first touchdown and then the game-winning touchdown, the 4th and 15, all of that. He was clutch. He's got a little bit of that. At least he's shown this season. Think about the dramatic, high-leverage situations. It seems like he's better. And I think that's where he separates himself from the other XFL quarterbacks. And compared to the other guys, he's got tons and tons of NFL experience. He has been in a playoff game in the NFL. That's about as high leverage as it gets. And that's something that he has, that experience, that a lot of the other quarterbacks just don't have. So the BattleHawks, I think, have benefited from that a lot this season. And as the games, have more and more playoff implications, and as we get into the playoffs, I think that's just going to help the BattleHawks more and more. You also look at Brian Hill. Since he's come back, it's been huge. I know he had the fumble last week, first play of the game, but weird things happen. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt, given the impact he's had on the offense. And guys, the defense, bend but don't break. There's stretches where they look dominant, then they'll give up some passing plays, but the defense you feel relatively confident in, and you're comfortable with the defense. I think that's the best word. You're comfortable with them out there. So really, the name of the game is turnovers. Easy thing to say, but given where the BattleHawks are, you look at the 2 losses to DC, it's turnovers there. So if the team can fix their DC turnover problem, I like them against anybody. Because this XFL North semifinal, that may well be your championship game. Nobody in the South really scares you. Orlando just got their first win over DC. I'm willing to call that a fluke. We saw Houston last week. San Antonio's sitting 2-5, and Arlington's under 500. There's nobody in the South that scares you. So really, figure out DC, and I think the BattleHawks have a path to a championship. And that's exciting, guys. I mean, it was awesome enough just to get the XFL back, have the BattleHawks name back. But just to find out that the team was good has been such a blessing for everybody in St. Louis. And it's fun, guys. Enjoy it. We've got 3 weeks left in the XFL schedule, plus whatever playoff games we may or may not have. Keep it tuned here to Under the Irish Sports. We're going to talk about the BattleHawks more, along with the Cardinals, and the Blues, everybody else in the world of St. Louis sports. See you guys next time.